Hi, welcome back to Frank's Final Review. Today we're going to be reviewing this Led Zeppelin box set that was released back on October 29th of 1990. I recently acquired this box set. This is a vinyl version. Recently acquired this copy after seeing the Led Zeppelin documentary slash movie Becoming Led Zeppelin that's been out in theaters since Valentine's Day, February 14th of this year. Highly recommend seeing the movie, especially if you're a Led Zeppelin fan. It's a great oral and visual document of the band, covering their first couple years. And it talks a lot about their roots as individuals and musicians, how the band formed, and the genesis of those first albums, Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. So it's a great movie. But again, just seeing that movie inspired me to acquire this box set. I had a cassette copy of this box set back when I was in high school, and I listened to it all the time. I actually still have the cassettes down in my basement. I do have I've got a pretty modest vinyl collection. I do collect vinyl, hence Frank's Final Review. But I'm just so excited to have this box set on vinyl, guys. And this is actually a European pressing. It was, I bought it off a gentleman from Australia. Very affordable copy. It is pricey on Discogs, both the U.S. pressing and the European pressing. So I'm excited to have this European press. Obviously Led Zeppelin's from England, so just to have this European pressing is very exciting for me personally. So we're gonna talk about this box. I'm gonna talk about. I'm not gonna go over each song. I'm gonna talk about my favorite tracks and talk a little bit about the music on here. So yeah, let's dive right in, guys. So the box comes with this really cool booklet, right? And on the back there's a nice picture of the band. Probably I want to say in the early 70s. Here's a great shot of the band playing at the Bath Blues Festival in 1970. Back in high school when I first had this box, I didn't really know much about Led Zeppelin. But now, 35 years later, 34 years later, I know what these pictures are. I mean, this picture they showed this in the documentary, them playing at Bath. So for me now, it's pretty iconic, and it's a pretty cool booklet. There's some essays, a few essays here written by Cameron Crowe, who traveled with the band when he was working for Rolling Stone. There's another essay by Kurt Loder, the MTV VJ, who's a great musicologist in his own right. Some really pretty colored pictures. Another essay written by Robert Palmer. And just a fascinating booklet here. And then it sort of breaks it down LP by LP and the different tracks. Again with more great pictures, so pretty awesome. And then at the very end, there's a sort of a layout, if you will, of their discography with quotes from the band, sort of summarizing the period. And we might read a couple of those at the end. But I want to jump right into this, guys. So we're going to talk about the first LP. And, I put the records in newer sleeves. They came, and this is common. I even read this on Discogs. If you've had this box set, there is a foam piece on the back, and over time that has disintegrated. So in a lot of the feedback that I read, that a lot of folks had that problem with their versions, with their copy, and I had that problem with mine. The LP6, the sixth LP, which is at the back, at one point had fused with that styrofoam, and so it created an awful mess. So essentially, I had to literally hand clean every paper sleeve, I had to hand clean all the sleeves, and I made sure the wax was clean, and so it was a bit of a project, really, just to get everything sort of lined up for this show. But so let's. I want to talk about LP1, and I just want to show you guys again because I'm just so excited to have this. So you see the Atlantic label there, the green and orange, and Jimmy Page mixed this. He mixed this with, I know the engineer, his last name was Marino. So these were mixed in May of 1990, and it was released in October of 1990. And I read some information before I jumped on here, guys. That Page, he kept hearing how great CDs were, and his Atlantic Records, they were Led Zeppelin's record company, and so he listened to some of the CDs, and he wasn't impressed with the mixes. He thought that the mixes sounded atrocious. Those were his exact words. So that was part of the impetus behind this box set. That's partly why he wanted to create this box set, was to just to give the music new life, and he hadn't touched any of the music at all going back to when they made the records. So it was almost like a rebirth, if you will, of Led Zeppelin. I was a senior in high school when the record came out, when this album was released. It was a huge part of my senior year. A lot of my friends were listening to it, and that's really when I got into Led Zeppelin, was in the fall and winter of 1990 going into 1991. I've been a super huge fan ever since. And it's this box, you guys. It's this box set that really turned me on to Led Zeppelin. So kudos to Jimmy Page. I think probably I'm not the only one who got hooked by them through this box set. So anyway, I want to dive right into this. Is LP1. We're going to talk. There's six LPs total. So we're gonna break them down LP by LP, and again, I'm just going to talk about my favorite tracks. So on side one of LP1, the track list goes Whole Lotta Love, Heartbreaker, Communication Breakdown, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, and What Is and Should Never Be. I love all those songs, On side two, we have Thank You, I Can't Quit You, Baby, Dazed and Confused, Your Time Is Gonna Come, and Ramble On. And I'll be honest, my favorite track on side two of LP1 is I Can't Quit You, Baby. And it comes from a soundtrack, a sound check, sorry. It's a live song. There's not a lot of live stuff on this. But this one, I Can't Quit You, Baby, was recorded on September 1st, 1970, during sound rehearsal at the Royal Albert Hall. And that was a big show for them. In the recent movie, Becoming Led Zeppelin, they talk about, Jimmy Page talks about how it was a gathering of the tribes, if you will, because a lot of their family members were going to be there. It was the first time that they were playing in front of family. This version, I Can't Quit You, Baby, is just amazing. I mean, it's a blues, and it's just, I can't say enough about it. So that's my favorite song on, probably my favorite song on LP1, frankly. Heartbreaker, that's another great one. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, the acoustic song. And again, in the documentary, Jimmy Page talks about when the first time that he and Robert Plant got together, it was sort of an informal rehearsal. And apparently Jimmy had learned Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You from a Joan Baez version. And so he played it. It was just him and Robert Plant hanging out. And Page played the arrangement for Plant to sing, and Page just described this electricity between him and Plant. And after hearing Plant sing that song, Page knew that they had something special. So that was kind of an interesting insight. And it's the layout of the songs on this box set. It is sort of chronological, but it starts off with "Whole Lot of Love." I mean, you would think that it would have started off with "Good Times, Bad Times," the first song on Led Zeppelin 1, but it kicks off with "Whole Lot of Love." So yeah, it's not a replication of their album discography, if you will. I think ultimately Page chose all these songs the way, obviously the way that he wanted to. But I think it makes this box set even more special. It is kind of, as opposed to hearing "Good Times, Bad Times," you hear "Whole Lot of Love" as the first track. So that they were very proud of Led Zeppelin 2, and I'll just sort of digress a little bit in talking about becoming Led Zeppelin, because the movie really covers, in addition to the roots, in addition to covering their roots as a band, it covers, it covers those two albums, Led Zeppelin 1 and Led Zeppelin 2. So it's pretty fascinating, really. So yeah, let's move on. So that's album 1. Some of my favorite tracks there, and again, I'm just so excited to have this European pressing with the Atlantic stamp, if you will. And again, I really had to clean these, but even still, I'm just so excited to have it. I'll probably listen to it again once this show's over. So moving on to, this is LP2 now, and again, this great artwork. If you remember, if you had this back in the day, it's got pictures of the symbols, right? Robert Plant, Page with his Zozo, the three circles representing John Bonham, and then John Paul Jones. But I like it's sort of an updated, they're updated symbols, and obviously we lost John Bonham, so we see his symbols, with a fern on stone, which is kind of interesting. So anyway, moving on to LP2. The track list on LP2, Traveling Riverside Blues, which again was a live track from the BBC. And they had spun out a video for that particular track. That played on MTV, and I remember seeing it all the time. And again, that just cemented my love for the band and this album, this box set, if you will. Friends is track 2, followed by Celebration Day, Hey Hey What Can I Do, and then a third live track, White Summer Black Mountainside, which I'd never heard before. It's an 8 minutes and 1 second track, and that one was also from the BBC. Side 2, we have Black Dog, Over the Hills and Far Away, Immigrant Song, which I love, from Led Zeppelin 3, The Battle of Evermore, which at the time I didn't really appreciate it, and then it later came out on the single soundtrack, played by Nancy and Ann Wilson, and I love that version on the single soundtrack. But hearing the Wilson girls, the women from Heart, I mean that gave me a greater appreciation for the song. So I really love that. Of course, John Paul Jones is on mandolin on that song. And then the fifth song on side 2 is Braun Ayar Stomp, and I might be butchering the pronunciation, but that's a great fun song. And then lastly, Tangerine. So again, just an impressive track list. Love Traveling Riverside Blues. Celebration Day, I really appreciated, from The Song Remains the Same. Hey Hey What Can I Do? I mean, I've always enjoyed that one. Now, I knew a gentleman in college. I started playing guitar a lot in college. But a friend of mine in college, he had White Summer Black Mountainside down. It was part of his repertoire, if you will. And I used to hear him play that all the time. He played it so well. So shout out to my friend Jason. And then on side 2, A Black Dog. I mean, I love The Song Remains the Same version. It's just such a cool riff, and it's a tricky song. There are 2 different time signatures. So even the band, they talked about how difficult that was sometimes for them. And it's interesting, if you've seen the movie, the song remains the same. You can tell, you can see John Bonham like counting, and he's so locked in. Over the Hills and Far Away, again, not to obsess about the song remains the same, but there's a great jammed out version on that movie as well. The recent, the more expanded version, if you will. Immigrant Song, I love how that opens Led Zeppelin 3. It's one of my son's favorite songs. Again, I've talked a little bit about the Battle of Evermore. Ron Ayar Stomp, I love. I love Led Zeppelin 3. It's probably, I can say this, Led Zeppelin 3 is probably my favorite Led Zeppelin album out of all their albums. I mean, it hits me hard. A lot of it is because there is more acoustic music, but I love it. And then finally, the last track on LP2 is Tangerine. So that's another great one. Okay, so moving on to album 3, if you will, on this Led Zeppelin box set. And I'm just going to show you guys, just again, because I'm just so happy to have this copy. So we have the track list on side 1, Going to California, which is a great acoustic song. Since I've Been Loving You, really just a tremendous blues. I think it's out of C or C sharp, but I love that song. And again, the song remains the same version is amazing. Dire Maker, which is kind of their spin-off of reggae. It's a great tune. Gallows Pole, track 4 on side 1. And again, this is LP3. And then the last song on LP3, Custard Pie, which kicks off Physical Graffiti. And Physical Graffiti is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year in 2025. And I think it recently celebrated, I forget, it was released in early 1975. So I might do a show on that one as well eventually. But again, Custard Pie, I remember hearing that song on this box set and really enjoying that. On side 2, we have Misty Mountain Hop from Led Zeppelin 4. Rock and Roll, that one, another Led Zeppelin 4 album song, if you will. And again, the version that kicks off The Song Remains the Same is just amazing. The Rain Song, beautiful song. And again, I knew another guitar player in college who could play the Rain Song note for note. I mean, he had it down. And I remember hanging out with him one afternoon, and I think it was kind of a rainy afternoon, and he just started playing that on his acoustic guitar. Just beautiful, really an amazing moment. And then the last song on side 2, Stairway to Heaven, probably one of their most famous songs. And again, The Song Remains the Same version is just, especially when Robert Plant says, I think this is a song of hope, but just a beautiful song. So yeah, that wraps up LP3. Moving on to LP4, and I love this one as well. So this is LP4, and again, I'm just going to nerd out and show you guys and I just want to show. I mean, the quality of this pressing. Really nice stuff here, near mint, which is impressive considering that this box set will be 35 years old this year, So yeah, really happy to have this. So we're talking about LP4 now. And side 1, we have the opening track, Kashmir. I love that song. I learned to play that one as well. Trampled Underfoot, another great Physical Graffiti song. And then For Your Life, I'm not as familiar with that one. Moving on to side 2, No Quarter, just an amazing song. John Paul Jones on the piano. But yeah, great song. Track 2, Dancing Days, another nice one. And then here's where Jimmy Page kind of mixed up the track list. Track 3, we have When the Levee Breaks. So that, and that was on Led Zeppelin 4. So he has it kind of thrown in with some of these. This is like a really heavy LP, if you will, with When the Levee Breaks, which runs at 7 minutes with that bombastic beat by John Bonham, sampled by the Beastie Boys and many others. But just a great tune. Robert Plant on harmonica. And then the last song, running at 10 minutes and 22 seconds, Achilles' Last Stand from Presence. And that was the big song on that album. So again, this LP3, and I should have showed. And again, here's the symbols, if you will, updated in their 1990 form. But again, pretty cool. So yeah, I mean LP3 is definitely a monster, as you can tell from that track list. John, pretty John Bonham centric, if you will. Okay, so moving on to LP5. This one on side 1 opens with "The Song Remains the Same," and over the years I've really appreciated that song. Wasn't super into it when I was younger, but I definitely appreciate it more now. The second song on side 1, again, this is LP5, "10 Years Gone." I mean, what a great song. I love that song. I tried learning to play it. Didn't quite get the whole thing down, but just a great song. And then the last song on side 1, "In My Time of Dying," another 11-minute opus. Just a great song. Moving on to side 2, "In the Evening," "Candy Store Rock," "The Ocean," which again goes back to "Houses of the Holy," but for whatever reason Paige thought it would be appropriate to put it here in this slot. Followed by "Ozone Baby." And these are some of the less familiar songs. I mean, I'm very familiar with "The Ocean," but "In the Evening," "Candy Store Rock," and "Ozone Baby," not as familiar with. And then rounding out this particular LP, "Houses of the Holy." So kind of an interesting, more obscure track list on that one for me. And that's LP5. And then this takes us to record 6, LP6. And, as you can imagine, we're going to see some more music from Coda, right? So we have opening on side 1, "Wearing and Tearing," followed by "Poor Tom," "Nobody's Fault But Mine," and then "Fool in the Rain." And then this is the last side of this box set, "In the Light," which I love, and that one was on Physical Graffiti as well. "The Wonton Song," which is great. Moby Dick / Bonzo's Montreux. So Jimmy Page fused Moby Dick and Bonzo's Montreux into one track, which I thought was interesting. It was kind of a cool juxtaposition there with those two. And then the last 2 songs on the box set, "I'm Gonna Crawl," which is, like it's a blues, and to me it harks back to "Since I've Been Loving You," but I really love it and those two, this one and the last song, "All of My Love," coming from the last album, the last studio album, "In Through the Outdoor," and that pretty much concludes the box set. So just an incredible run of songs there, guys. I touched on some of my favorite, and I'm really excited to have this box set. And I just want to show you guys the picture of those guys again. This is them somewhere in the early 70s. Just looks like they're having a lot of fun. And I wanted to talk about this box set, especially on the heels of the movie Becoming Led Zeppelin. So I highly recommend the movie, guys. It is still in theaters. I'm assuming they'll probably release a soundtrack. I mean, the music it's loud. You're there at the theater, and I was in a fairly new theater, and the sound system was amazing. The music was really loud and intense. And I think the first, once they essentially they were finishing some dates that the Yardbirds had committed to, the new Yardbirds. So the first dates that Zeppelin played as a band were actually in Denmark, and they show a gig in Denmark. I think it's in Copenhagen, but they're playing in Denmark, and it's like a 10-minute version of "How Many More Times" that later came out on Led Zeppelin 1, and just incredible power. I mean, you can, you're in the movie theater, you can see and feel the power of John Bonham. Everyone is dialed in, and Jimmy Page is playing some great guitar. He's playing his Telecasters before he received the Les Paul. So he's I think he mostly used a Telecaster on that first album. So he's playing that Telecaster and playing some really nice stuff. So, okay, guys. Well, I could talk about Led Zeppelin all day, but again, I just wanted to key in on this box set from 1990, just simply titled Led Zeppelin. And if you get a chance, look for it online. There are copies out there on Discogs and eBay. So if you're like me, and again, I was 17 going on 18 when this box set came out. It really was a catalyst. This box set was a catalyst for me, and getting to know the band and their music, and so it's got a special place. Not to sound cheesy, but it's got a special place in my heart, just because it's like some of the first music I've heard. I heard from them. And I love the sequence. It is more or less chronological. But so kudos to Jimmy Page, and I wanted to excuse me how Jimmy Page was listening to CDs, but he knew vinyl sounded better, and he wanted to upgrade the Zeppelin discography. He wanted to improve the tracks, and that was one of the main motivations of him remixing this incredible playlist that we hear on Led Zeppelin. Okay, guys, well, that wraps it up for today, and thank you so much for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you next time here at Frank's Vinyl Review. And please like and subscribe, and if you have any comment, if you want to leave a comment about your favorite Zeppelin album or this box set in particular, any memories that you want to share with it, it's a great one. So okay, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening. Thanks. Good night.